Hello, Jeanette.
Hello, hello, Kevin. This new system using StreamYard, I just never know when we're on and when we're not on. And
All right,
oh my
I'll
gosh,
take time to drink some more coffee while we get going.
please do. Because you know what, Kevin? While you're taking your coffee, as I mentioned just before we came on live, when I think of these topics from past topics we've covered in the little holes that missing information. And I think it's so important because as people are, rushing to get renovations done before the holiday season and things like that, is I don't think we've ever really talked about, because you guys do a lot of renovations, equally as many as new builds as well, where there's
Yep.
different site conditions. Is the safety factor for a homeowner and their family while an installation is going on and there's all this equipment and stuff like that. So can we talk a little bit about, so you're getting a hardwood floor installed, what does the safety look like in somebody's house?
Yeah, cool question. And yeah, you're right, because if we're doing work on, let's say, a new home being built, or we're doing work on a renovation where a client lives in the home already, these are like completely opposite ends of the spectrum, right? In terms of how we're approaching the installation and how we're approaching really the process. So, one end we're dealing with a general contractor and other trades, and there's things we got to do there. But when we're walking into someone's home, we're walking into someone's home, right? And they live there, and they more often than not will continue to live there during the course of the renovation. Some people definitely take the opportunity to go on holidays or otherwise vacate the home. Yeah, we love it when people say, "I'm going to Maui. Here's my key, and I'll see you when you're done." And we love that. Obviously, it's easy for everybody. There's no client management. We do have to have an ability to get a hold of them, because quite often during the process we'll have questions, or we will want budgets approved before we go ahead and do work. But that's an ideal situation, but that's not the norm. So yeah, we come in, we sit down, and we talk. Hey, we're starting, and what are some of the realities of doing this type of work in your home? And obviously, pets and little kids are two of the biggest considerations, and more often pets than kids, just kind of with the demographic that we're working with. But both of them can have a mind of their own, and can and not ignore instructions about their own safety. And so we get a lot of questions about cats, and I have a cat, what do I do with it? Well, that's a very practical question. I have a dog, can it run around the job site? No, it can't, right? So I have a 3-year-old, can she run around the job site? And it's like, well, no, she can't. And it's we really are, we would typically come in, we do demolition, so there's saws, there's grinding, there's dust, there's pointy things all over the place, right? And then we're putting back together. We're pouring cement, we're nailing things, or we're gluing things in, and there's, again, saws always being run. And this is just not a place for anybody, if at all possible, to be in, and especially children and pets, because they don't know if there's a spinning metal thing going on, to stay away from it, or don't interrupt the gentleman who's running it, because his life is, or his limbs are also at stake. And if he's doing a cut with a table saw in particular, and you interrupt him during that, that could be the end of a finger or a hand. Or I've heard of gentlemen where their chest has fallen on the table saw and they've cut their breastbone open, and it's not child's play. So yeah, we have to have a real conversation about really letting the tradespeople have control of the space, for maximum performance and for their own safety.
So what about site protection? Because the one thing is we know when you go to install your hardwood floors and the cutting and the dust, you've done your due diligence of knowing everything that's in that wood manufacturing. So in the dust, of course, you're mitigating that, those crazy chemicals that could end up in somebody's, nose and stuff like that. But in the in the demolition phase, you don't know. You don't know what's kind of coming out, how it's going to come out, how much dust is. Especially, I remember when I was a project manager, there was times that you took out tile, like chipping away tile, and put hardwood floor in. So how do you go about site protection, which is part of safety when you're doing a job?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is obviously the A word, which is asbestos. And we're very cognizant of that, and we have partnerships with testing labs. So if we come across anything that is suspect, it immediately goes for testing. So that's the most important thing, is to make sure that asbestos doesn't come airborne. Is that always the norm in the flooring industry? It'll depend. To be honest, I certainly know installers and people who have just whatever, just take it up, get rid of it. It's going to cost me a day to stop working. So I've heard of all sorts of nasty things. So just to say it as a policy, and we have it right in our contract, if we come across asbestos, this is how we're dealing with it. And it's to maximize everybody's safety and to make sure that response is clear before we even start the work. Yeah, and then in terms of demolition, it's, you're talking about plastic things off, vacuums, these kind of things. At that point, it's really working individually with each homeowner and each workspace. What is the best way to mitigate what we're doing? But at the end of the day, dust is going to be involved, and we've run into some people that have had unrealistic expectations about that. But I'm sorry, we're removing stuff that is permanently attached to the home, and we're cutting up new stuff and putting it in, right? So definitely work with your project manager beforehand and say, this space is really important to me, or these pictures are really important, and say, okay, well, take those off the wall. Don't have them in the workspace, right? So this is why Ethical has white glove service and dedicated project managers, is to go through all of these variables that change from every home and every client, and to sit down and say, and for the client to have agency for themselves and say, this is what's important to me. These objects are important to me. This room is important to me, whatever the case may be. And we'll meet whatever those requests are.
And there's got to be a two-way street for even the homeowner to understand that is a workspace, a workspace, kind of like going to, say, a job that has a bathroom, like understanding that, hey, can we have the discussion on if you've got 1 bathroom, 2 bathrooms, 5 bathrooms, what bathroom do you want me to use? Understand that the safety, even there, that if you as a homeowner haven't got your environment set up for the areas our crews are going to be using, is to understand that could slow down a job as well. And not to peak. I can remember a couple of times as a project manager, we've plastic off things, and we've got that zipper thing that's in the plastic. And I go, don't peek. Like, please don't open up the zipper. Like, the guy's in there, and because I could tell if there's little footy prints on top of the hardwood because the glue is still setting, and you don't want it to move around and stuff like that. And it's like, please, and plus the guy's cleaned it all up in there, and he's left it kind of as dust free as possible. And they've opened up the little zippy zip, and in comes some dust, and it can really create, an issue as well. So there's got to be that two-way street, that safety is a two-way street when it comes to a job site.
Just when you were mentioning that, it came to mind a project we did many years ago, and it was a foyer for an apartment building, and we ended up pouring the whole thing in self-leveling compound. Like a full pour, we would call it, to make it nice. And, we taped off all the entrances, do not enter, wet cement, blah, 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 the whole 9 yards. And we came back the next morning, and the tape had been ripped down, and there was footprints all throughout the cement.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm like, I don't know what else you could do, but you're right. I mean, there's some very practical things you mentioned there, like bathroom access. Does the client have a place to sleep, especially in condos where we're doing the whole condo, which is very, very common. And we're moving from space to space, and we have to do leveling, and there's furniture. And so leaving access for a bed, right? Or a bed that is set up. These are some of the practical realities that, to be honest, not everybody in the flooring industry is set up for these type of things, and they don't they don't necessarily want to deal with a homeowner that's living in the space. But this is who we are, and this is what we're well versed at, and this is why we have professional project managers to work with the client to make sure that everything goes, and they have a place to go to the bathroom, and they have a stove that they can use, and whatever all these questions are, because we're not going into a high rise that's partly under construction and putting flooring in, right? That's one way of doing it, and we're doing it very different. But in certain respects, it's still the same thing. It's construction, right? But it's construction while a client is living in the home, and these are they take a little bit higher levels of management and communication, and that's why we have such awesome project managers.
Yeah, absolutely. And the understanding of when the installer comes in to go, I need to set up like this, is for his safety, for the job to go. I can remember homeowners saying, okay, you're going to cut in the garage, or you're going to cut underneath your tent outside, and you're going to pull the, back and forth. I'm like, no. My guy is going to bring in his table saw. He's going to bring in the buckets of glue. He's going to bring in all his tools, and he's going to be working in the space. And they're like, oh no, that's like too much stuff going on. And it's like, we want the job done correctly, efficiently, and this is the way that it's got to be.
And safely, yeah.
Yeah.
And to put yourself in the tradesperson's shoes as well too, right? Every time you make a cut, do you want to go walk down 2 flights of stairs and go outside where it's snowing? Maybe your tent is protecting you, but now you go from heated space to -5 and snowing, and then back in and then back out, and it's like, how happy do you think you would be at the end of a day like that?
Correct.
Right. Yeah. So my job when I would go in on the first day of a project as the project manager would be to balance the needs, wants, and desires of the client with the installer, make sure everybody's happy. But ultimately my job was to provide the client with the result that they want. Right. And, to advocate for the installer sometimes when things are being asked of them that wouldn't make that possible. So yeah, it's a really interesting discussion, but like I said, it's not everybody's professional at renovations. It is probably one of the harder aspects of the business, no doubt, when the client is living in the space. But we've developed a system and people that over the years we make it work quite well.
Well, that brings us to the end of today. So that means we're going to carry on our conversation, what we were going to talk about. Now we've got a safe job site. We've plasticed off. Everything is checked in. And now the manufacturer says to nail it down. And then Kevin comes along and goes, as a matter of fact, we're going to glue it down. And let's talk about to do two methodologies and why you would want one and why you'd want the other. Sometimes I know that sometimes you nail and sometimes you glue on the same job site. It depends on what you're doing. So how about that, Kevin? We're going to carry on our conversation.
I love to geek out on install stuff. You know that, Jeanette. So it's yeah, we love glue at Ethical Flooring. It's 0 VOC glue.
Yes,
so but it's definitely the best way to install a hardwood floor. So that's all I'll say for this week, and we will follow up next Wednesday.
Perfect. See you guys next Wednesday, 2 p.m. Why do I say 1 p.m.? 2 p.m. every Thursday. What the heck?
You're in a time
I think
machine.
It's this weather. It's all of a sudden it's fall and we're snuggled in again. I'm wearing a scarf because I'm cold. Wednesdays, 2 p.m.
Wednesdays at 2. I'll be here.
Fast facts and features with us.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Talk to you later.
Bye.